everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Music Podcast once again, where today I am honored to be sitting with Cyrille Aimée. Cyrille is an accomplished jazz singer. She has won the Montreux Jazz Festival Competition. She has won the Sarah Vaughan International Jazz Vocal Competition. She was a finalist at the Thelonius Monk International Jazz Competition, and of course in 2019 nominated for a Grammy for her version of Stephen Sondheim's "Marry Me a Little." When I say accomplished, I mean accomplished. Cyrille has released more than a dozen albums to her name, and her latest record, Fleur de Peau, it came out on March 8th on Whirlwind Recordings, and she is here to tell us all about it. Thank you so much, Cyrille. It's great to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, first thing, how bad's my French?
Ah, it's
Can
all
you
right.
can you tell us the name of the record?
À fleur de peau.
Okay, I was close, right?
Uh-huh. It literally means on the surface of the skin, but it's an expression we use in French to say when we are hypersensitive and the slightest little thing moves us and we see the beauty in everything. Um, and that's how I felt when I was recording this album.
And that's how I felt listening to the record. It's a beautiful, bright, sunny record. It is really just a thing of beauty. And it's very raw in its presentation. It was very. I felt like I got a piece of you in the music, and that is really, really special. I don't always hear that. There's
I'm so glad you heard it.
yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
I felt closer to the person that you are through your music, and that was really, really special. It's an intimate listen. It really, really is. I love that. I love that. Uh,
Thank you.
your beginnings, your story. Grew up in a small village in France. I'm not even going to attempt the name of that village. uh,
Samois-sur-Seine.
okay. Uh, about an hour south of Paris. The great Django Reinhardt lived there. Is buried there.
Mhm.
Gypsies came into town, or come into town, still do, right? Play their
Yeah.
music and celebrate and are with each other, and the freedom they have. A different culture in the gypsy culture. Um, you got involved with them, you befriended them, and kind of discovered the freedom of music through them, correct?
Well, I discovered through them the art of improvising on an instrument, especially. My mom is from Dominican Republic, so I grew up, for me, my first relationship to music was through dance. There was always dancing in the living room, salsa, merengue, bachata, but also Michael Jackson, and just my mom loved to throw parties and dance. So that's for me, the groove was the first thing that hooked me to music. And then when I met the gypsies and I just started to understand their culture, that they were people who live in the moment. They really live every day like it's their last. And I understood that their music was the same way. And I fell in love with the improvisation factor
Yeah.
in that music.
Yeah, and and that is you've done so many different things, and you do a lot of scat at this point now. I know you've kind of become known for that. Um, it's that is the spirit of improv, isn't it? When you're up there, nothing is written out. It's really the core of what jazz is.
Yeah, yeah, I just love it. It's like an exploration.
Yeah.
It's pushing the limits of your comfort zone, is going where you haven't been. And I don't just do that when I'm scatting. I do that in life in general. That's my kind of my goal, is try to explore where I haven't been and always be in a beginner state, kind of always learning.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, you're extremely diverse, French and Dominican ancestry. Grew up in France, lived in the Dominican, lived in New York, lived in New Orleans, and
Hmm.
you have a, oh, I don't even know what to call it. I'll call it a home, uh, in the jungle of Costa Rica. Uh,
Yeah.
it's you've adopted a bit of that freedom, that gypsy mentality, correct?
Yeah, and I think it kind of went both ways. When I met them, they also saw that I already had that in me. My parents, my dad loved to move in different places. By the time I was 20, I had lived in 4 different continents. So I was always kind of used to readapting. And I guess the thirst for exploration um, really matched the musician life, which the music takes me to all these places.
Yeah, yeah, and finding your voice, finding you when you first did as a child, really, it was through Django, really, right? And the
Yeah.
Gypsies and Sweet Sue. Uh,
Hmm.
Singing in front of people that had a huge impact. And is that the point where you decided I want to do this for the rest of my life?
There was never really a moment where thought that to myself. I just realized how fun it was. And for me, it could have been anything. The singing was just the tool that I had at the moment, but it was not about the singing itself or even the music itself. For me, it was about the connection, the sharing with the community, and just the effect that it had on the people when you were giving your heart like that. And so when I sang for the first time in front of people, I saw the smiles on everyone's face, and I just thought, I want to do that more. And I just kept doing it. And then at some point, people started giving me money for it. And I was like, okay, sure, thanks.
That
So
was
yeah, that's how I got here.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. And I've heard about your college days, and the things you went through, gigging and going to school, sleeping on the couch at the clubs, uh,
Yeah.
because you couldn't get the last train. I mean, that is, I admire that so much, and it is a complete sacrifice, if you will, to uh, the music. And
Yeah, it's kind of like you don't really have a choice.
yeah,
It's either you're all in or you're not.
yeah, yeah. And it's I love seeing somebody who is all in, no matter what it takes, and that is so cool. That is really great. Um, you have more than a dozen records out there. I think it's 15 now, right? Um, this release relies more heavily on your songwriting. You're a piece of you this time, really shining through on this record. Is that a little bit scary for you?
Very. Yeah, very scary. I mean, it's a lot more risky than covers and arrangements, which I love doing that. But it took a lot of courage for me to kind of release my journal. It's really very personal, very intimate songs, very real experiences, and at the same time, it's so fulfilling. I feel so uh yeah, like I gave birth.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and well, let's go there. Tell me about the latest single. I'm gonna try and do this without too much emotional. Inside and Out. I am deeply, deeply touched by that song. Um, Wow, it's breathtaking. And let me tell you why. Your story in the writing of that song. You had an abortion, and that is your story in song. It comes from what I would assume is a fairly dark place. But the song, this is what I love so much. It uplifts me. It's sweet. It's
Hmm.
innocent. It's just so it opens my heart and it lifts me up and I share it with you. And that is so unusual for something like that. Please tell me about this and how you accomplish that, because that is just so difficult in songwriting, and it's just written so well, and it's just such a beautiful song. Please,
Thank
if you
you.
would.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. You know, when you're writing a song, especially one like this one that kind of came from higher above, it was a medicine song for me. And you don't really think about, the technique of the songwriting and how am I going to make this light when it's such a, heavy subject. I just I just went I just tried to let the song heal me. And and I guess, by being positive about it and seeing the silver lining and actually really what I felt inside, which was that was not time yet, but there's so many things that I can create, so many things that I can give birth to. And I always think about this with with the sun on my face.
Uh,
And and I guess when I wrote this song, it was 6 years ago. It was the very first song that I wrote for this project. And we recorded the song. And then I kind of aborted the project, in a sense, because I moved to New Orleans, and my producer was in New York, and so we were far. And also, I didn't believe in myself as a songwriter at the time because I had built a career singing songs that have had the stamp of approval for decades. And then I did a Sondheim record, which does not help in feeling good about your own songs. And so for a few years the project was on hold. And then I started going back to that jungle where actually that first song, Inside and Out, came from. And and started feeling so inspired. And and then the pandemic hit, and I started building this castle in the jungle because I wanted my friends, my musician friends, to come and feel this magic over there, to get inspired and to see how the songs were coming and coming. And and so after the pandemic, I called Jake. I went back to New York. I said, I have a bunch of new songs. Let's finish what we started. And as I was finishing the album and finishing the house at the same time, I realized that the very first song that I wrote, Inside and Out, was about this house, was about this record, was about my birth as a songwriter and as a creator, and quite literally about the house. I say I would build a house so steady for you to come back to, and I think you are the songs. And there's just so many ways that we can create. And 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 yeah, I feel like all this album is really my baby.
uh, it's so emotional for me. I wish everybody could hear this song in particular, and this record, because it's so special.
Mhm.
And knowing and seeing your house in Costa Rica, and when you deliver that line, I will build a house so steady for you to come back to. It's very emotional, because I know, the type of person you are, and seeing you in that house, and it just, you are at home when I see that, and it's just this beautiful structure that you took part in building even. Um, how hard is it being away? And you are like you've adopted that transient kind of you like to move, you like to keep moving. I'll tell you, if this was my home, I don't know if I would ever leave. I would never leave
It's hard,
Dakota.
man. It's hard leaving there every time. It's very difficult, and it's always the same. It's like, for me, it's a balance. It's all balance. If I'm moving a lot, then at some point I need to know that in the future, in a few months or whatever, I'm gonna have some time, some stillness in the jungle. That's what I went to look for over there. Silence and stillness. Because for me, that's when the songs come the most. But yeah, it always happens to me. I just don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. And as soon as I'm in the airport, I'm like ready for the next chapter. Okay, that's behind me. Now I'm just facing forward. But yeah, it is a paradise, and I have big plans for it actually because I'm not an architect, so the reason it's huge is because I didn't know it was going to be that huge. And because when you're drawing on a little piece of paper, it looks small. But but I want to host workshops, and I want to make a music retreat there, and bring in musicians, and teach, and uh, have songwriting uh, ceremonies, and yeah, it's like it's gonna be a long-term project. I have a
Yeah.
lot of, and you know what? Actually, there's a music video that's gonna come pretty soon for that song Inside and Out that I shot in the house.
Ah, that's great. Ah, it's so
Hmm.
special. That's really something. I know you have a studio there, and I learned what cellular cement was from you. Uh, soundproof studio. Uh, could you ever record? Did you record this album there?
No,
Could
I
you?
recorded this album in a very low-key place, though. I recorded most of it was done in Jake's living room with his laptop, Jake Sherman being the producer in Brooklyn. And some of it was done in Keyboard Heaven, which is a tiny little room filled with keyboards. But the studio in the jungle is more like a rehearsal studio, composition studio, demo studio, but it can't have all the gear because it's solar panel.
Right, right, right,
So with solar panel, it'll be too heavy.
right, right. And I heard this record, and I just listened to it like everybody else on either in a car or on my desk. And I was listening on my desk, and I fell in love with it. So I decided to put these on. And really immerse myself.
Hmm.
And this was done on a laptop, or it's astonishing what can be done, because as soon as you put it on, there's a movement from ear to ear, and it's just there's so many things going on in the music, and it's
Yeah.
just so the tone on the record, it's just warm and tender, and it's just, it's lush. It is.
Thank you.
It's so well done. So well
A
done.
lot of that is Jake. He's producer extraordinaire, and his strength as a producer, he's a great songwriter, uh, performer. He plays every instrument incredibly, but as a producer, his strength is to bring out to bring out of the musician, of the artist, the best. Bring out all the ideas from the artist without imposing any of his ideas. Just getting the ideas out. And yeah, he was incredible to work with.
Man, if you had any fear of your songwriting being out there, it should be gone by now. These are incredible songs. They really
Well,
are.
that was definitely one of the big things that Jake helped me was make me feel good about my songs, just the fact that he wanted to record them as is. He really wanted me to come in with complete songs, and then we worked on the form kind of while I was teaching him the song for a while. And also he insisted on me playing the guitar. And I was like, well, but I'd rather just teach the song to a friend of mine who's a great guitar player. And he was like, no, no, no. I wanted to have the essence of the songwriter. And yeah, it's just he's got the ideas.
Yeah, that's a vision. And it is I feel that. I can feel you playing and like I say, there is a piece of you that just jumps out of that sound. It's incredible. It really is. You have a short song on there called Yo Soy Diosa. Uh
Hmm.
and it's a small little thing and it's kind of this rough sound to it. It's not the polished, soft tones that we have on the rest of the record. And it's this short little thing. Maria Cardona uh, on this recording. Tell me about the song. It's a traditional, is it not?
Yeah, it's a traditional song. It's like a medicine song. Um, and it's a message. It's a WhatsApp recording
Okay.
that my friend Maria, who is the reason that I ended up in the jungle, she's from Costa Rica and she's my best friend. And she's the one that moved back there after school, and who I went to visit and then fell in love with the land. And I was having a hard time, and she just sent me that voice message on WhatsApp, and it made me feel so much better. And it really goes with the whole tone of the record and what we were just talking about women's womb being creators of infinite infinite life. And yeah, the power of being a creator as a woman. And so that's why I just put it in there, because it really went with the vibe of everything. It even goes with the look of the record, the design, the photos. And so that, yeah, I wanted it on there.
And it's great. It's a great addition, like I say, because it's different. And I knew there was some kind of story there. And that was it. I listened to it and I said, there's a story here. And that was intriguing. It's beautiful. It's such a piece of you. I'll say it again, and the whole thing is just a snapshot of you, and it's fun and exciting to be close to the artist that you're experiencing a record with, and it's really you nailed that for sure. Um,
Thank you.
so rich with sound and texture, the record. There is even is it a children's choir on here?
Yeah.
That is again so much fun and such a left turn kind of. We're going in this direction, and then we have this, and it's just this again bright, sunny, uplifting, beautiful child voices coming through. How did that take place for you?
Well, that was one of the ideas that Jake was like, "No way, we're not doing that. That's crazy." And I was like, "Please, just trust me. Let me just do it. Let me just get it done, and you'll see." And he's so happy that he accepted. Here is a song that's really about being in the present moment, and it's about disconnecting. Literally, it's about disconnecting from your phone and having that open eye open eyes towards the world and everything that's around us, everything we can't see when we're stuck on our phones. And I feel like kids are still in that state, and they can really teach us a lot about that. And so I just wanted a bunch of kids to sing this chorus with me. And I got my friend Camille Thurman, who was teaching at a music school for kids, to record that, and she did it on her laptop in her classroom,
Sweet.
and it turned out great.
It did. It's so sweet. And again, I knew there was a story there. It was intriguing. It added so much to the song. It really did. It's great. Musical theater. You've done musical theater in New York. You haven't done a ton of musical theater. Is that something that you'd like to explore more of in the future?
Man, I fell in love with musical theater right when I moved to New Orleans. So not great luck for me. But I love acting. I love it. I'm It's something that I feel I can really dig into. And when I was working on the Sondheim record and performing the Sondheim repertoire, I really felt like every time I would sing these songs, I would learn new things about myself and new things about the lyrics. And acting does that. You learn a lot about yourself when you're acting. And yes, I would love to do more of it, but it's already hard enough when you live in New York. So if you don't live there,
Right, right. It's great that you got that experience, though, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. I have some house questions. I have to ask you. It's that, and there's a great video, and we'll have a description, a link in the description to where you can see the actual tour of the house in Costa
Uh-huh.
Rica, and it is in the jungle. And then when I say in the jungle, I mean the nearest street is the
Far.
very far.
Hmm.
It's in the middle of trees. You have basically almost no windows. When I'm looking, I'm like, there's no window. I mean,
Well, there's no windows because there's no walls.
right? It's very. When I say unique, I mean unique. How does that work with the jungle, the wildlife, and things like that?
Well, first of all, weather-wise, it's the same temperature all year long.
Wow,
There's just two seasons, dry season and wet season. So it's always super comfortable temperature.
wow,
And when it's wet season, it can get a little wet, but you just, sweep it up and then the sunshine will dry everything in the morning. And about wildlife, for example, mosquitoes, they're really not that bad there. They don't bother.
wow,
I just sleep outside. And I realized I made this house that way because I need to be outside. It's something that I need. And when I'm on tour, it's something that I miss so much because when I'm on tour, I'm mostly in transportation in hotels that don't even you can't even open a window, or in airplanes in airports. And when I'm talking about balance, it's like I need the opposite of that when I'm not on tour.
yeah.
And so I need to be outside all the time. And so this house is designed so that you can spend the whole day in the house and feel like you were outside all day.
Uh, any other wildlife? No snakes, monkeys, anything?
Yeah, there are snakes and monkeys, but they they're shy. They're not gonna come into your house.
Oh,
It's very rare. It's very rare.
wow.
There's some scorpions, but they're also very shy. You just escort them out.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. It is so
You
unique.
gotta learn to live with the bugs. They were there
Yeah,
before you,
yeah,
and they don't take that much space.
yeah.
And and they're pretty looking.
Yeah, I would imagine so. You get
Hmm.
quite a variety there, for sure. Pretty great. I'm so glad that you have that place to go. That sanctuary is really what it is. It's pretty great. Tell me, I don't want to respect your time. I know you're busy. I so appreciate it. Um,
Thank you.
the band you take on the road, you have so many sounds in what you do. There's horns, there's organs, there's stand-up bass, there's electric.
If I could have a full band, that would be great. But budget-wise, it's difficult. I'm touring with a trio, so just piano, bass, and drums,
Okay.
and we make it work. We make
Yeah,
it work. I like the fact that studio is different than live. You
yeah,
know, it's a whole nother ball game. It's a whole nother um way to express the music. And I'm not trying to copy the record. The record's done. I don't need to do that again on stage. I like to adapt and be in the moment and see what the music needs every day.
Yeah, I look so forward to it. This Sunday, in Illinois, right near me, pretty close. So look for. I'm a photographer as well, so I will be
Oh,
photographing
great.
the show. But and I try and explain this to people. When I photograph a show, I'm kind of doing that as what I do. So I'm looking for spotlights behind heads and different
Yeah.
angles. It's going to be very difficult for you because I want to put my phone down and be in the moment.
Yeah.
I am going to make sure that I take the time to do that and
Okay.
experience your amazing performing. Uh,
No, thank you so much.
Pretty great, pretty great. Um, I've heard you say that life is the great educator. And I'll leave you with this. You're moving and shaking and exploring and your sense of adventure. Do you ever see yourself settling in one place?
I I don't think so. I mean, I think I live in my shoes, and it's impossible even to think where, because my family is in France and I have so much family in France, but also my heart um is in New Orleans. I love that town and I have an incredible community there. But also I need to be in the jungle, so I don't see myself having to choose one.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. It's so great. You inspire me. This has been so great, and I appreciate your time. And I look so
Thank you.
forward to seeing you Sunday.
See you then.
All right. Thank you, Cyrille. I appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.